Welcome. Hi, I'm Emily McDonald. I'm the program advisor at Coaching Out of the Box. I will be your host for today's webinar. I'm super excited for today. It's hard to choose a favorite of our webinars, but this is definitely one of them. Together, we will experience the power of coaching. It is live, unscripted, and unrehearsed today. Whether you are a seasoned professional coach, you're just getting started with your coaching journey, or you're a current student at Coaching Out of the Box, this is a great opportunity to experience our fantastic coach facilitators in action. One very powerful way to grow as a coach is to observe coaching led by other professional coaches. Observing can enhance the ability to coach more effectively, refine your coaching skills, and be exposed to new ideas and coaching styles. The chat box is open as always, so please comment and ask any questions as they come up for you throughout the webinar. After today's webinar, we will be sending a follow-up communication that will include all of today's slides and a link to the recording. A little bit about how our time is going to flow today. In just a few moments, we're going to welcome one of our amazing coach facilitators, Anne Fogelin, to facilitate a 30-minute coaching session with our very brave coachee, Jillian. After the session, Sunevi Seeley, another incredible Coaching Out of the Box facilitator, will join and conduct a 15-minute debrief and feedback session with Anne. This observation will show you what can happen in a really short space of time and to experience how coaches use the ICF core competencies and the skills that are used for coaching in the moment. Just a little bit more about today's live coaching session. As mentioned, they are unscripted and unrehearsed, and kind of think of it as improv of coaching. Everyone will be figuring it out in the moment. You might be wondering why we do this. We host these webinars because coaching takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. When you are developing your skills as a coach, it can be intimidating, especially when you're a new coach. I'm sure even for seasoned professionals, trying out a new skill or a particularly advanced skill, to be able to see other people using these competencies is a great learning tool. What is coaching? The ICF defines coaching as partnering with clients, customers, colleagues, or employees in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. The ICF sets these standards for coaching, and we adopt the training guidelines and disciplines that are defined by the ICF. Here are the updated ICF core competencies for effective coaching. I definitely will not bore you by reading them out. As mentioned, they will all be in the slide deck in the communication that will be sent out after today's session. We'll also put in the chat a direct link to the core competencies on the ICF's website. As you mentioned earlier, the coaching sessions will be 30 minutes and then followed by a 15-minute debrief session. As the coaching is happening, please feel free to add any comments or questions that come up for you in the chat, and we'll cover them during the debrief session. So let's start off by introducing you to our two coaches for today, Anne Fogelin, MCC, and Sunevi Seeley, PCC. Coaching today will be Anne. She is one of our wonderful coach facilitators here at Coaching Out of the Box. Anne is a master certified coach, an ICF assessor, and is the founder of Because I Matter, which focuses on helping organizations achieve increased focus and productivity and become stronger communicators. We're so thrilled to have you here today, Anne. Please say hello.
Well, I look at that picture, Emily, and I look at this, and so this is COVID and rain, and that wasn't. So thank you for that introduction. It's lovely to be here with everyone today.
Thank you so much. And you look fabulous in both so. Awesome. And then joining us in facilitating the coaching debrief is another one of our fabulous coach facilitators, Suniti Seeley, PCC. She is the founder and operator of Suniti Seeley Coaching and Consulting. Suniti has worked with thousands of leaders at all levels and has made it her life's work helping leaders reach their full potential. She brings connection, authenticity, and courage to her coaching practice. Welcome, Suniti. Do you want to add anything? She is joining us from Auckland, New Zealand, and it is 6 a.m.
Yes, it is. So I'll just say kia ora koutou, coming at you live this morning from Auckland, and excited to be here. I see some familiar names in the chat. So looking forward to having the opportunity to debrief an amazing coach today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And finally, I'd like to introduce you to our coachee today, Jillian Goodrich. Jillian, we would like to thank you for jumping in as a coachee. And I also want to acknowledge your willingness and courage to be coached live. I am going to keep time for today's session. And how much warning would you like?
How much warning would I like for what?
The end of the session, sorry.
I don't need a warning. I just need my clock to come back on. So when Jillian and I are on screen, will my time come back on? And if not, then I can do this with my phone. I'm good. Thank you, Emily.
Okay, perfect. So then if everyone's ready, we can get started. Over to you, Anne.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because Emily, I can't see anyone. Am I going to be able to see Jillian?
Yes, you should be able to see Jillian. Let me.
Emily, do you want to stop the screen share and then I'll spotlight both videos?
That would be awesome. Thank you. Okay. And Jillian, there, okay, I can see me. I don't need to see that and that hair. I see you. There we go. Fantastic. Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, Jillian. Welcome.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
I'm very well, and yourself?
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking.
And do you go by Jillian or Jill, or what do you prefer?
I prefer Jill.
Jill?
Yes.
Perfect. Then that's what we'll go with. So it's really interesting because Emily suggested that it took courage for you to step up and be coached today. I'm hoping that you're going to look at this more as an investment rather than a courageous act on your part. Before we actually step into anything, let me just make sure that you and everyone that's listening is reminded of the ICF Code of Ethics and the notion of confidentiality. So as much as we are doing a live coaching demo, the information that you shared today will be held in strictest confidence. I will not share this with anyone other than should you, for whatever reason, disclose that you would think of doing harm to yourself or someone else. So I abide by that code of ethics, and I would ask that anyone who's listening to this follow the same. Are you okay with the call being recorded, Jill?
Yes, thank you, Anne.
Okay, great. I'm noticing an accent. Where is that from?
It is a South African accent, and you might notice palm trees in the background because I am in Miami.
Oh. I'm not even going to ask how we got from South Africa to Miami, but it's a delightful accent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for stepping forward today. This truly is an investment, hopefully, in what it is that you're looking to accomplish. So without further ado, what is it that you're bringing to our session today?
I certainly am thinking of it as an investment because the next couple of months, I am in full sprint mode. I have a lot of projects that have deadlines that I have to deliver on. And I really think that I need to, in order to be successful, one of the main things is to be able to manage my agenda, manage my priorities, focus on the things that I can control, and not be so hard on myself on the things that I cannot.
Sounds like a lot of moving parts going on here.
Yes.
What more can you add to this, just so that I have some context?
Okay. Well, just we've been in restarting the business after the pandemic, I work in hospitality and tourism, and this last year has really been focused on the rebound, making sure that the business is up and running. And now, over the next couple of months, we have a new resort opening, and I'm heading up part of the one of the streams of the new resort openings. I also have the rest of my region that I need to maintain. I need to make sure that I have my immediate things that I'm committed to, that I follow through, and I do that with excellence, and also then the big things. And on top of that, I need to find a place to live, and I need to make sure that my kind of personal sphere is okay as well, that I have kind of checkpoints there as well. So that's why the agenda management, I believe, is going to be the main key to my success. Mm-hmm. I don't want to deprioritize anything, because my feeling is really that all of them are priorities. So that's where I am at the moment.
I can hear that, actually. And it's interesting because you've mentioned the word excellence a couple of times now. What's so important about doing things really well for you?
I think that for me, delivering things and doing them well, there's my own credibility on the line. There is not only how others see me, but also for my own sense of satisfaction and my own sense of achievement and wanting to grow and to learn and to do that. That's why it's important for me.
My sense also is that the word mediocrity is not a word in your vocabulary, so I might be stretching that. How does that land with you?
It for things that I don't care about, I'm absolutely fine with it. And I am also very okay to know that other people are better than me and are better than me. And I love leveraging the strengths of those around me. So I'm okay at being very mediocre at things. But when it comes to things that I really have complete buy-in, that I have the conviction on, then giving less than 100% is not really what I am okay with.
Yeah, I can hear that. So it feels for me, Jill, like you've almost taken a puzzle and dumped the pieces in front of you. And now it's about how do we organize this to create the picture that you want by the time we're finished. Does that metaphor work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So when you typically go to work at this puzzle, how do you begin to understand what pieces need your utmost attention first?
Yes. This is an excellent metaphor, a really excellent metaphor, because I'm used to having the full puzzle and then working on like the main things and then adding in the extras around that. Right now, my feeling is that I have some of the pieces missing. And I think that might be the thing that's throwing me off balance than what I'm used to.
Okay. So we have some of the pieces, but the major piece or some of the major pieces missing. Okay. And I could just see you actually moving this around. I could see you physically moving this. All right. So for the purpose of today then, Jill, to make sure that today would be really powerful and useful for you, what would you hope to have that you don't have now?
That is a good question. I would like knowing that it's not in my control to get some of the pieces that are missing. That is something that is really outside of my control. I cannot influence these. They are really out of there. And to be okay with that, and to then go, okay, that's not out of my control, but what are the other how can I fit the other puzzle together that it's still something that is okay with that particular piece missing? What is going to be my plan B if that's not going to work like that?
You know, and it seems like this is really important, that you're noticing that there are things out of your control. So how do you now manipulate the puzzle so that maybe that missing piece doesn't seem so big? I don't know. What do you think of that?
Yes, definitely. And I think that for me, leveraging, as I said, I am very cognizant of the strengths that I have around me, and to leverage those, and to get people on board with me to help on those things. So
Okay.
even if I can take some of their puzzle and they can take some of my puzzle, it could work out that way.
Great. Okay. So this is truly, how are we going to know that you have what it is that you want by the time we're finished today?
By the time we finish today, just to identify perhaps what is in my control and what is out of my control. That would be the first thing. And then to have a strategy to go forward on those things, like build an action plan, to build some concrete next steps on that.
Perfect. And when you say strategy, just so I'm clear, what does that usually include for you?
Strategy is the way forward. So what can I do if I encounter something that is just thrown in, or that is something new, or something that is blocking points, then what can be my next move in that?
Got it. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So knowing where it is that you want to end up in the next 20 minutes, how are we going to begin this conversation?
So the next thing is, one of the big things that I cannot control is getting visa entry into the country in the time frame that I want. It is not really up to me to if Canada decides to let me in 2 weeks or not. So that is one of the things that is out of my control.
Okay.
And with that is to share with my colleague, and to go in and align on our agendas, to see, okay, what is happening for her, then what is happening for me, and how can we manage to do the switch?
To do the switch, what's that?
To do the switch, if she has to take my core area of responsibility for that moment, if I cannot go into Canada because she doesn't have the same restraints as I do when it comes to getting entry into the country. She can go in and out, that's fine. So to see with her, what is her agenda, what is my agenda, how can I take her puzzle, and how can she take my puzzle in case this is something that is not going to work.
All right. And what would having that option provide you?
That would provide me with a definite plan B. That would also provide me with reassurance, because I know that she has a very strong desire to achieve excellence as well. So I believe that either way, that our clients are going to get what they are looking for. So for me, this is a definite reassurance.
All right. So the visa is a big piece of the puzzle, but you've also said that there are some perhaps interchangeable pieces between you and your colleague. Okay, great. What else comes to mind as to one of these big puzzle pieces?
To delegate the things that are really, that are kind of, that are important to me. Like I said, I don't want to deprioritize anything. I want to still delegate those things that are maybe not something that should be dedicating my time and energy to, because I know that I won't be able to do everything do everything well in the time that I have to do it in.
Yeah, it's really interesting. This notion of excellence keeps coming up. And what I'm hearing here is that you're looking to have people in place that will do an excellent job, even if you're not a part of the equation.
Yes.
Okay. And what's significant about that for you, Jill?
Because the people that I surround myself are also an extension of my own brand and the way that I want to be seen, and also to connect with people that are also on a level that is also striving to be better, striving for growth, striving for this.
And is this support system also, are they also pieces of the puzzle that can be interchangeable as well? Or is there something else?
Well, definitely now that I'm looking at it, definitely.
Okay. So you've identified visa and you can't control the Canadian government. Welcome to our world. The delegation piece, what else comes to mind for you?
To also make the decision now that work is going to be the first thing that I need to deliver on, and that my current personal situation of needing to find a new place to live and to do all the personal admin stuff that goes along with moving and changing addresses and all of those things, that is not something that I need to be concerned with right now, that I don't need to have anxiety about it. Again, I bring up such a great support system that I have friends and I have colleagues that are just amazing, that can help me out, and that I don't really need to make that extra on my plate. That I know that work is not going to be crazy like this for forever and ever, and that's something that I not deprioritize my life or deprioritize my personal space. It's just that it's right now for the next month and a bit, it's just not going to be something that I should focus on.
That you should focus on.
Mm.
What does that realization provide you?
Saying it out loud, it provides me with some relief.
There's a piece here for me too that you said you've got the great support system. You feel confident in who it is that you have and that you can delegate. What might be something that you can implement that would allow some of this personal stress to be diminished to some degree?
Yeah, and that's the support system that I have is in my personal life as well, and that's really great. I'm very grateful for the people that I have, and perhaps that's why I feel that I should be doing that, because I don't want to put them out. I don't want to be an extra burden on anyone. So doing those things would help them, but it's also an offer that I have that's very kind from the people that that are around me. So I'm very lucky there. So take it and use the time that I need, and then repay them in the future in another way.
Sounds like a lovely synergy that you have with these people in your life.
Yes.
And my sense is that you cultivate those kinds of really important relationships. Okay, we're just a little over halfway at this point, Jill. And I just want to check in. Are we still on track for what you wanted today?
Definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So based on that, what's really coming forward for you? Maybe a better question would be, what insight or insights have you gained just from this very short time?
Is that I don't need to be in control of everything. Even if I want to, I don't have to.
You don't have to. I don't have to. That's a really powerful statement.
Yes, it feels it feels quite intimidating to say it out loud, because I like to have controls on the things but it's also it's quite liberating as well to say it out loud, and to say that I don't have control over everything, and that's also okay.
Yeah. So it's not to have control over everything. My sense is that at the same time, having, as you said at the beginning, having a plan B, should you not be able to move those pieces around, what is it that you know could support your continued development or success?
Right.
Okay. All right. So you said that there were some things that you wanted to prioritize. And it was around that visa, and it was around the delegation, et cetera. So based on what we've talked about, what comes to mind for you as this strategy that you were looking for?
The strategy is to go back in with my colleague and to re-go over the plan, because the plan there has been a plan for a while now, but now knowing that there are some constraints, that there are not only my personal visa constraints, but there are constraints that are in place, COVID protocols and all of those things, to now take the big plan and start detailing it. Who is going to be doing what, when, and how many people, like really take the big view and go into the finer points of everything day by day.
And these are on the pieces that you can have some impact on, knowing that there are going to be holes in this puzzle until Canadian government says yes and whatever. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What else comes to mind for you?
So taking that and then aligning the plan with the best resource.
And how will you determine that?
How do I determine that? By skill level, by language, by the ease of entry into Canada. Yeah, definitely by skill, by will, and being able to, manage that.
Okay. What additional support do you need, if anything?
Additional support that I would need is perhaps to share more on that, so that I can identify the more resources if it need be. Because right now it's kind of only in the inner circle of my immediate team and manager, and I need to now give it more space and more visibility, so people can see and put their hand up if they need, if there's anything aligned with their skills.
Okay. And what, if anything, Jill, might get in the way of this being successful for you?
Being successful for me, myself, my own want to either make everything go exactly according to plan, or wanting to have control over the things that I shouldn't really think about right now. And those are the main things. So it's really myself that would hold me back from that, and wanting to take every aspect of it.
So how might you be able to navigate through that, knowing that you want the control and that you want things to be a certain way? How might you navigate through a situation like that?
Honestly, these coaching sessions are helping a lot. Doing regular coaching practices, and talking it out, seeing that there is another way, hearing from different people. It's been very interesting to have these sessions and speak to people in different industries, because I've really managed, it's opened up a lot of being able to see from different perspectives for me. So that's really great.
Mm-hmm. What is it that you are learning about yourself through this process?
Through this process, that listening more, there's such power in listening more, and that I don't always have to have an opinion on everything, that I can just let things go, and it's really not going to impact me. And the listening and being present, that's also been something that I've been able to catch myself when I'm not fully present, and I'm thinking of 100 things, and I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm still trying to email and things, which one isn't serving me, nor is it serving the people that I'm around. So how can I use the skills that I'm learning here more of in my day-to-day interactions, in my relationships, in finding the best in the people around me, that I can leverage their skills to that. So it's been really great.
I hear someone who is so aware, and you seem very enlightened. You said listening. I'm hoping that it's listening not just to perhaps what others are saying when you're in conversation, but listening to yourself, in that there was so much that you shared today that seemed to be very important for you. So we're coming really close to the end of time, Jill, and I just want to make sure that we recap. What exactly are you committing to as far as next steps?
Yes. So the first thing that I'm committing to is not having to control everything, and making sure that I'm aware of those things that I am not in control of. And then if I can't control it, then I don't need to be worried about that can be. So that's one thing. The other thing is for the next sprint that I'm in, is to really take advantage of the care and support that I have from the support system around me, and be very grateful for that. And then to work with my colleagues on the bigger picture, and putting it down into details, and to see what needs to be delegated, what really can only be done by me, and then how can we take this bigger picture, add the details, what is going to be the plan B. So really have not just one singular plan, have the secondary backup plan that still is in line with everyone's skill sets, that is still going to be achievable, that is still going to be, we're going to be able to deliver on that. So these are my 3 main actions.
When do you think you can begin to implement those?
One is this afternoon. I will definitely make time with my colleague to go through our agendas this afternoon before we leave the office, so we can see where we are, and to sharing the plan tomorrow, and then having another recap and go through of what are all the things on my to-do list, and see, is it something that I'm going to do? Is it something that I'm going to delegate?
You've painted a beautiful picture for me, and I don't know about you. This puzzle, it seems like the pieces, you've really begun to understand how to manipulate this to create the picture you're looking for, even realizing that there could be an empty spot because that's the one you can't control, hoping that when that's taken care of, it fills in and completes the picture. Does that resonate at all for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been a really great metaphor, and one that is definitely fits my brain.
Excellent. Good. So we're really at time here, Jill. Is there anything that you feel that's been left unsaid about this particular topic before we close?
No, thank you. And I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure. Are we at a good place to stop here?
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jill. I wish you great success. I really, truly wish you great success.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jill and Anne. It was so nice to be able to take a step back and just sit here and bask in the loveliness of Anne's coaching. For those of you that have joined us today, I'm not sure if you're familiar what MCC stands for, Master Certified Coach. So Anne is working at the top of the practice level when it comes to coaching. And so even for myself, sitting at that PCC level, I'm frantically taking notes here because I'm learning so much as I'm engaging in this process as well. So we're going to walk through a quick debrief, and I'll start with Anne and Jill. But what I'm going to ask everybody else to do is to go into the chat and maybe add some of the observations or some of the things you noticed. Perhaps there were some core competencies for those of you that are coaches or are doing coach training that you saw shining through very clearly, any highlights or aha moments that you noticed, and I'll come back to the chat as well. So Jill, we'll start with you. And obviously, this whole idea of this metaphor and this puzzle really seemed to bring to life the coaching conversation. And that metaphor actually came quite early on in the conversation. Tell us how Anne's use of metaphor really helped to frame or shape your thinking in this conversation.
It actually came from a previous job that I actually did, where it was really about moving a lot of parts. And I used to name it the impossible puzzle, because I just felt like if I as soon as I put one piece in, somebody would come and move another one. So it was, that was the impossible puzzle for me. And just having it like laid out like that, I could really see the different puzzle pieces that were the big things and maybe some of them that I had been focusing on that was really not, maybe it didn't even belong in my puzzle in the first place.
Excellent. So there was really like some sort of personal attachment to that metaphor, because it seems like it really resonated with you quite quickly and quite easily, and was a nice way to help map all of those different moving parts and the idea and recognition that there were some missing pieces, but we were still working towards creating as much of that picture as we could.
Right. And also being visual, like I do having the picture, like those things. It was definitely something that I was before focusing a lot on my agenda. What does the agenda look like? How can I fill in my to-do list? Now seeing it as an actual picture is a lot more powerful for me.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I think this is where the art and science of coaching sort of come together, because as I'm hearing you talk about agenda and sort of thinking about that level of excellence that you had shared, you really hold yourself to, I could see how using that metaphor really sort of gives you some freedom and flexibility to be creative and play a little bit in this space. So awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jill. Anne, coming back to you. So tell us a bit more around how the coaching conversation unfolded using this metaphor, and what were some of the key highlights for you in the conversation?
How did I honestly, I have to be honest, Nevie, I'm so in it, I don't know that I remember much of it, other than I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with Jill. She was just such a willing participant. And I do apologize. You know, the age of Zoom and people working from home, I put my dog out, no one was home, but then halfway through, my daughter came home, the dog was barking. So if there was any background noise that was distracting, I truly apologize. I can't control my own life. So then there you go. I was just so struck by Jill's willingness to dive in. And I appreciated how we could take the conversation. It wasn't just about what she needed to do. You know, clearly she's very intelligent, articulate, capable. What's really getting in her way? What is it that she's not seeing? And I'm a very kinesthetic learner, so I use metaphors a lot because they work for me. And so it was about offering that particular one, but I hope that I checked it out with Jill to make sure that it actually resonated with her.
Yes.
Did I do that? Okay.
You did. Yes.
Good.
I wrote it down and highlighted it.
Because that's really important as coaches. It's to offer something, but if it doesn't resonate for the client, then it's about making sure that you change it up and that they know that they can do that. So when it resonated with her and I could see her physically moving the pieces, then there's that internalization of it. So at a sensory level, she's really connecting with it. So I enjoyed the fact that she was willing to go deeper into it. Wasn't just about what's not here. What am I not doing? Or she's got this figured out. She's got this figured out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You can tell here's a woman that has a plan A, plan B, it's all in the works, all the pieces, well, maybe not every single piece, but as many as we can gather are there. And she's already manipulating them. So that's exciting to see.
I think too, what comes forward for me is this isn't about, if we as coaches hold the client whole, capable, resourceful, which is what we're meant to do, then I don't need to coach whatever it is that she's dealing with, the situation part of it. It's who Jill is. Who is Jill? What is it that's really going on for her? What is she understanding about herself? Because once I've coached who, the what and the how, they'll take care of themselves. And so this was really focusing on who she is, what the impact of this is on her, those types of things versus how are we going to get you to where you want to go? Who are you going to talk to? How are you going to delegate? That's very consultative versus coaching.
Exactly. I think you've really just touched on a key point that's so important for us coaches to remember, is that it's not our job to do the heavy lifting or the problem solving or the strategizing or any of that. And for those of you that have done our programs or know something about coaching, one of the things that really shone through to me was this concept of 80-20, where 80% of the time the coachee is doing the talking, 20% of the time the coach is doing the talking. And so even in observation, conversation and even in my note taking, it was very clear that Anne was holding Jill capable right from the very beginning of this conversation. And she did that using a variety of coaching tools and mechanisms. And I just see the chat out of the side of my eye going crazy. So I'm going to take a pause and come over and have a look at some of what's coming up. I'll probably start at the bottom and scroll up a little bit. Let's just see, Adriana here is saying everyone has different perspectives of solving or planning their actions, and Anne never told Jill what to do. Key. I'm sure Anne has a million great ideas and a wide variety of wisdom and experience. And even me as a coach, I'm sitting here in the background thinking, oh, I can relate to the whole moving countries thing. And if I were a coach, maybe that would be a thought. If I was coaching Jill, that would try and enter my brain that I'd have to sort of push to the side and be fully present. So it's not our role to come up with all of our great ideas and solutions. That really is that whole piece of holding somebody capable. Adriana goes on to say, Jill had the answers and the plan, and Anne guided her towards the plan, looking at any potential obstacles that could come in the way. Exactly. It's not enough to just have a plan and to say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Because what tends to happen if we just do that ourselves and we haven't really stopped to do some real strategizing and think about those roadblocks or barriers or what supports we'll need or planned for some accountability or embedded that, chances are we're probably not going to follow through and do those things, or we might do them to a certain extent, but not in the same way as when we're actually being very, very thorough in that whole action planning process. Anne Marie saying she loved how Anne reflected back Jill's awareness to embed in the learning. And there were so many of those beautiful moments throughout the coaching conversation. I'm just going to come to one section, and I really did have my trusty highlighter handy as I was scribbling my notes. And there were a few places where it was just so clear that Anne was really, really demonstrating this active listening. She was maintaining presence. You know, for many of us working from home during the pandemic, we do have all sorts of distractions, but Anne was laser focused. So she didn't let that sort of take away from the coaching. It was almost like none of that existed. And she continued and she stayed focused. So at one point in the conversation, we're at about the halfway moment. Anne takes a pause to check in. And she just asked Jill, what are some of the insights that you've gained at this point? And Jill's insight, which I think really, when we talk about what was that aha moment in the coaching, and you shared that at the end as well, was you said, I don't have control over everything, and that's okay. And then it was interesting to hear Anne didn't ask a question. What she said was, in reflection around what Jill had shared, is she repeated, and you saw her do this multiple times throughout the coaching, she repeated the exact words and phrasing that Jill had used. So she repeated twice, I don't have to, and then made an observation. That's a really powerful statement. So just the fact that Anne took the time to just sit with that, hold some space, use some silence, reflect back using the client's own words, allowing the client to have that aha moment, and really just sort of let that sink in at the midway point. For those of you that have some familiarity with coaching, when you're thinking about the middle point in a coaching conversation, this is a 30-minute coaching session. We've done our check-in. Our clients had this big aha moment. What did you then see happen for that second half of the session? Any observations people want to share? Yeah, Adriana's sharing, just being coach relieves tension, puts your focus back on track. Absolutely. So that middle piece is really about, that check-in piece is about just saying, hey, here's what you came for today. Here's what we had agreed to in terms of establishing and maintaining that agreement. But let's see where we're at right now. Our clients had a big aha moment. And now I'm seeing coming up in the chat, Ed is sharing, it really empowered the client towards action. It was sort of like, you know, as Oprah says, oh, the big light bulb moment. And all of a sudden the energy shifts and it's like, oh, I can do this. Like you could actually almost see those puzzle pieces beginning to form the picture, which makes it so much easier as you begin to move into that next phase around action planning. Alex is sharing raising awareness and helping to embed the learning. Kathy is sharing honing in on how Jillian would begin. Yasmin is sharing what might get in the way of your success. Kathleen saying observed a big sense of relief, being heard, and then moving to action. I was actually going to ask you, Jill, because I get the sense like I also like to have some control over my world. And I am also in this weird period of transition, having just moved to New Zealand. So with that idea of sort of letting go and saying it out loud and giving up control, tell me how you felt at the beginning of the conversation, where there was obviously this need to sort of have some control over all these pieces versus towards the end where you had let that piece go. How did your emotions or your energy shift?
Definitely the anxiety, a bit of anxiety in the beginning, thinking, oh my God, I've got to let that go. Or if I release that, then I'm going to be letting someone down, or I'm going to be, and it's a very uncomfortable place to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
we're, sorry, go ahead.
And at the end, it was a relief. It was really looking at the puzzle from the outside and going, okay, I don't have to build this by myself.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Did anybody notice that sense of relief? I see Anne nodding her head. And it was actually something that you picked up on very early in the conversation, Anne. So say a bit more about this, because I'm going to share back what you paraphrased. And then within the context of what you now know of the conversation, you may have a comment around it. So in paraphrasing, you said, I can hear that you've actually mentioned the word excellence a couple times. What's so important to you about doing things well? This was literally within the first few minutes of the conversation.
It struck me as this is a woman who means business. She does things, she does them well. She doesn't like things to be subpar, if you will. That's where, so this actually comes under that competency of evoking awareness, where the number 11 standard talks about sharing observations, your intuition with your client, and it was about pushing back. So did it resonate for her? When I asked her about mediocrity, it was really interesting how Jill then said, it really doesn't matter for things that don't matter. But I wonder how much doesn't matter to Jill, because my sense is that she's very meticulous about just about anything. Again, that's an assumption I'm making. Yes. I would check that out with the client. But this comes from the, I don't think I can stress enough, it's the whole premise of coaching is trusting that the client truly is capable, resourceful, and whole. And if I trust my client, then it allows me the permission to stay in a role of curiosity and ask those questions that I don't have the answer to. I don't know Jill, I've never met Jill, I don't know her, I don't know her world. So I can ask questions from a place of curiosity that hopefully allow her for the opportunity for deeper exploration, reflection, and exploration. And then what is it that comes forward for her from that perspective? What are the ahas that she is now embracing, if you will?
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I also highlighted the fact that you did check in around your assumptions or your gut instincts or your inklings. You said, my sense is the word mediocrity is not in your vocabulary. And then you followed it up with, how does that land for you? So here we've got that example of like plucking out those keywords, checking in around some of those assumptions, but then not just leaving it there and dumping that on Jill and not coming back to it, really asking, how does it land? And it did land for Jill. So that's how we saw Anne able to sort of carry on into the conversation. I'm just going to wrap up, but maybe one more comment here. Chris, I actually had the impression that Jill's breathing changed over the course of the coaching session, deeper and slower breaths. Wow.
Could
And
be.
I sort of felt like the shoulders coming down, right? Like, almost like permission to breathe. So I'm going to wrap up now, but thank you so much, Anne and Jill, for that amazing coaching session.
My
Wonderful
pleasure.
to see 30 minutes of coaching versus 15 minutes, and how much more deeper we can go into the coaching and what can be achieved. So I'm going to pass the time back to Emily now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne and Stevie, for that incredible coaching session. And also thanks, Jill, for your vulnerability and willingness to show up and be coached today. Wanted to do a quick recap of some upcoming program offerings at Coaching Out of the Box. One particular program of note that I'm really excited about personally is the Embracing Diversity in Coaching program that is starting on November the 2nd. And actually the next webinar in October is going to be hosted by the coach facilitator of that program, Patricia A. Lee. You can register for that webinar. I think Stephanie will put the link to registration for that webinar in the chat. And also our next fast track cohort is starting next week, actually on September 28th. And not to worry, there is still time to register. And just a little bit more about the program that's starting in November, Embracing Diversity in Coaching. It is a 6-week program. There are prerequisites for attending, and classes will be capped at 20 participants. And if you want to learn more, we'll also have a link to that program page on our website in the chat, and we're happy to talk to you about this program or any of our other program or offerings at any time. We have the link to our calendar to set up a time, or you can email us anytime. It's just advisor@coachingoutofthebox.com. And so to wrap up, I'd love for you to put in the chat what you have now that you didn't have before today's demonstration. And finally, again, we're getting some good comments in. We will capture the chat and follow up with anyone that had any outstanding questions or comments. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, a huge thank you to Anne and Sinevi for sharing your mastery of coaching and a truly inspiring coach demonstration. Also, again, thanks to Jill for your trust and investment in being coached live today. And I can't end it without saying a big thank you to Stephanie for your never-ending support, both technical and emotional. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on the next one.